My name is Michelle B. Haley. I'm 28 years old. I found out my family flew to Paris without me, the same way most people find out their ex just got engaged, by accident, on social media, while I was doing something incredibly ordinary. It was a Tuesday, just after noon. I was on my lunch break at work, sitting in my car in the office parking lot with a microwaved burrito in my lap, and my phone balanced in one hand. The AC hummed weakly. A half-empty water bottle rolled around near the passenger seat. It was one of those days where you're not aiming for happiness. You're just trying to survive the second half of your shift. I wasn't looking for drama. I was looking for distraction. Thumb mindlessly scrolling, brain half asleep, eyes barely focusing until they did. My mom's name popped up at the top of my feed. New post. I tapped it without thinking. The first photo almost didn't register. It looked like a stock image. Blue sky, sunlight, metal lattice rising into the sky. The Eiffel Tower. And there, right in front of it, grinning like a tourism brochure family, were my parents and my younger sister. My mom in a floral blouse and sunglasses, my dad in a crisp polo he usually saves for weddings, my sister holding up one of those metallic rose gold suitcases like it was an accessory. They looked happy, coordinated, matching outfits, matching smiles, the kind of picture you'd frame on a wall. I swiped. The second photo was my sister, holding up a glass of wine toward the camera like a toast. Bonjour, written in the corner in some cursive filter font. Third was my mom wearing a beret tilted at a silly angle, standing outside a cafe. She'd captioned it, Parisian chic with a little baguette emoji. The fourth one stopped me cold. It wasn't the photo that did it, just another shot of them in front of some ornate Parisian building. It was the caption underneath the carousel that hit like a punch. Finally, just the real family together. I read it once, then again and again. The real family. I stared at those words until my burrito went cold in my hands. I wasn't tagged in this post, not once. No mention of me in the caption. I scrolled through the comments like a detective looking for a clue. Beautiful. Enjoy. So glad you're getting quality family time. You deserve it. Your family is perfect. Nothing about me. No, wish Michelle could have come. Not even a polite lie. It felt like getting kicked in the stomach by someone you didn't even know was mad at you. I set the burrito aside, appetite gone, but still clinging to the warmth like an anchor. The real family, I repeated quietly to myself, testing the words out loud. They tasted metallic. For a moment, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a last-minute trip. Maybe there was some emergency. Maybe they tried to invite me and something went wrong. Maybe they just worded it badly. Then my brain did that annoying thing it does when you've avoided something for too long. It reminded me. A few days earlier, I'd gotten a fraud alert from my Amex, some large travel-related purchase. I'd been stressed, busy, and I'd assumed it was some glitch or something from work. I swiped it away and promised myself I'd check it later. Later had apparently showed up in Paris. I opened the Amex app with fingers that suddenly weren't as steady as they had been 30 seconds ago. The list of recent charges stared back at me, neat and clinical. 3 round-trip flights from JFK to CDG. Total, $4,184. A hotel booking, 5 nights at Hotel Le Bristol. Total, $6,300. Private tours of the Louvre, Versailles, a curated food tasting day, $2,800. Restaurant reservations through a concierge service, $100. All of it on my card. All of it under my name. Not one text. Not one call. Not even a, hey, we need help, can we borrow? Just booked behind my back. And off they went. The quiet rage that settled in my chest wasn't hot. It was cold. Sharp around the edges. You'd think that would have been the worst part. It wasn't. About an hour later, as I sat at my desk, pretending to work with the Eiffel Tower still burned into my retinas, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my sister. 3 words. He never checks. No punctuation. Just that. The way she always texted when she was rushing. At first, I didn't even understand. Then the pieces slotted together with horrible clarity. My dad never checks notifications. Never checks his banking app unless my mom nags him. If she'd texted him that, it would have made perfect sense. Except she hadn't texted him. She'd texted me. She just hadn't realized it. Those 3 words told me more than any long explanation ever could. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. They'd planned this. They assumed I wouldn't notice the charges, or if I did, I'd be too naive or too loyal to push back. They thought of me as the card, not the person attached to it. I stared at her message, feeling something inside me go very, very still. Then I replied with 1 word. Checked. I didn't add anything else. No, what is this? No threats. No questions, just that one flat word. Read. No response. I stood up, told my manager I wasn't feeling well, and left work early. The drive home was weirdly calm. The kind of calm that comes right before a storm hits your neighbor's house instead of yours, and you just sit there watching. I didn't cry when I got home. I didn't scream. I didn't call them. I opened my laptop, logged back into every travel platform tied to my card, and started working. I found the airline bookings and filed disputes, reporting them as unauthorized. The system automatically flagged them for investigation and released the seats. I pulled up the hotel reservation at Le Bristol, canceled, marked as fraudulent. The tours, Louvre, Versailles, food tasting days, gone with a few clicks. Museum tickets voided. The concierge restaurant reservations, reported as unapproved charges. Finally, I called Amex directly. The customer service agent verified my information in a bright, scripted voice. "How can I help you today, Ms. Haley?" "I'd like to freeze my card," I said. "There have been multiple unauthorized travel charges." "I'm so sorry to hear that," she said. "We'll get that locked down and reissued for you immediately." She didn't know she was helping me shut down my family's dream vacation. She didn't know she was sitting on the other end of a grenade I hadn't pulled the pin on. They had. Within 30 minutes, every major booking tied to my card had been reversed or flagged. Somewhere over the Atlantic, or in an airport lounge, or maybe already in Paris, my family's luxury safety net vanished without warning. I closed my laptop. The house was silent. My heart wasn't pounding. It was slow and steady, like it was finally catching up to how tired it was. I didn't send a text to the family group chat, didn't send anything to my mom or my dad or my sister. I took a shower, climbed into bed, and went to sleep. At 5:41 a.m., my phone erupted, vibrating so violently on the nightstand it nearly fell off. 19 missed calls, 7 texts, 4 voicemails. Some from Mom, some from Dad, one from a Paris number I didn't recognize, probably the hotel, wondering why their guests no longer had a paid room. Then one message from my dad that stood on its own. "Are you serious?" Not "we're sorry," not "we need to talk," not "we shouldn't have done that." Just shock. Shock that I dared to close the tap. Lying there in the dark, staring at those 3 words, I realized something that changed everything. They weren't scared of losing me. They were scared of losing my card. And that was the last morning their free ride would ever be on me. I turned my phone off for the rest of that day. Not because I was angry, though I had every right to be, but because I refused to spend one more second of my life listening to people who weren't even pretending to be sorry. They knew exactly what they'd done. I didn't need to hear their justifications. The world is oddly quiet when you decide you're not responsible for everyone else's emergencies. When I finally powered my phone back on the next evening, my screen lit up like a slot machine. Missed calls, new texts, voicemails. I scrolled past all of them and opened the family group chat. My mom's corny, eternal fam bam. There, buried between a string of attempted calls, was a single message from my sister, sent hours earlier. "Well, now we're stuck in the middle of Paris with nowhere to stay. Hope you're happy." That was it. No apology. No, we messed up. Just the implication that I was the villain for refusing to fund their secret vacation. No one responded. Not my dad, not my mom. Definitely not me. The silence in the chat was almost louder than any fight would have been. I stared at that message for a long second, then closed the app and opened my laptop instead. I hadn't gone back through my bank statements in a while. I avoided it on purpose. I knew I paid for things. I just didn't think too hard about what or how often. It was easier to tell myself I was helping. I had a decent job. They didn't. But for the first time, I was curious. Not out of a need for drama, but out of self-defense. So I logged into my bank account and scrolled back. 2 months, 6 months, a year. The more I looked, the more patterns started to jump out. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Grubhub, Amazon purchases for items I didn't own, subscription boxes I'd never heard of, gym membership for a chain I'd never stepped into, charges at grocery stores across town at times I knew I was sitting at my desk at work. At first, it was just a prickling at the back of my neck. Then it became full-body nausea. I recognized my mom's usual grocery store, the nail salon my sister loved, the car repair place my dad swore had ripped him off last winter, all quietly billed to me. I'd always known I helped, paid for emergencies, covered just this once. What I hadn't realized was how it had stopped being emergency help and turned into infrastructure. They didn't just ask me for help when things went wrong. They began building daily life on my money, and I hadn't even double-checked the receipts. I opened a blank spreadsheet. Not because I knew what I'd do with it, but because I needed to see everything in one place. I went back 2 years. That felt like a manageable number. 2 years of my 20s. Date column, vendor column, amount column, mom, dad, or sister as the likely beneficiary. It took me 2 nights. Every time I thought I'd reach the end, I'd scroll back and find something else. A random $300 here, a recurring $24.99 there, old Venmo transfers with no note attached. It stopped feeling like a favor and started feeling like a quiet theft I'd agreed to by keeping my eyes closed. When I finally totaled it up, the number stared back at me from the bottom of the sheet. $41,372.86. That didn't include the Paris trip. That didn't include the half mortgage payments from the years before. That didn't include the times I'd handed them cash in an envelope because someone was short this month. I sat there, blinking at the screen, waiting for a wave of rage. It didn't come. What came instead was clarity. It wasn't just the money, it was the assumption, the entitlement, the way they'd treated it like it was owed to them, like I was some kind of walking overdraft protection with a pulse. They never said, "We're so grateful." They said, "Can you?" And I always did. So I made a decision. I didn't write a manifesto. I didn't plan a confrontation. I just turned off the tap. That night, I logged into every service I could think of. Hulu, cancel. Netflix, cancel. Disney Plus, cancel. HelloFresh, cancel. My sister's gym, cancel. Family iCloud account, cancel. Everything that auto-drafted from my card, everything that made their lives easier, everything they'd quietly attached to me without asking. I cut all the strings, one by one. And I didn't tell them. No long paragraph in the group chat. No. You've used me for too long. No, I'm done. I let the consequences show up organically, like unwanted notifications. It took 4 days. I was at my desk at work when my phone buzzed with a new message in FamBam. "Sister, anyone else getting kicked out of their apps? Why is Hulu asking me to update payment?" No one answered. A few minutes later, my sister texted me directly. "Can you fix the storage thing? My photos won't back up." I looked at the message for a second, then locked my phone and set it face down on the desk. For the first time in years, I chose not to fix the storage thing. That evening, my dad finally broke his extended silence. "Look, we can talk about what happened, but you're making things harder than they need to be." I almost laughed out loud. Not, "We shouldn't have booked a trip behind your back." Not, "We've clearly been leaning on you too much." Just a gentle reprimand that I wasn't making this easy on them. So I opened the family group chat. Attached the spreadsheet. Title, "Everything You Never Paid For, XISS." No explanation, no all caps, no accusations, just numbers. I hit send and watched the little delivered pop up under each name. Within 5 minutes, the read indicators appeared one by one. Mom, read. Dad, read. Sister, read. Then, nothing. No typing dots, no excuses. No, "This isn't fair." No, "Where did that number come from?" Just a shared silence that, for once, didn't belong to me. They were probably hoping it would blow over. That if they waited long enough, I'd cool off and slip back into my usual role, ghost accountant, emotional sponge, family ATM with a nice smile. What they didn't realize was that I wasn't raging. I was done. And once I decide I'm done, there's no card on earth that can make me change my mind. 3 days after I dropped the spreadsheet into the family group chat, the universe handed me confirmation. They hadn't learned a thing. It happened quietly, with a message my sister didn't mean for me to see. I was washing dishes when my phone buzzed. A single notification from the group chat lit up the screen. "Sister, don't mention the Miami trip yet. He's still pissed." No punctuation, her signature frantic texting style. My hands froze on the faucet. "Miami trip?" Before I even processed the words, the message vanished. Deleted. A full minute later, I still hadn't moved. I dried my hands, sat down at the kitchen table, and stared at my silent phone. They were planning another vacation. Behind my back. While still in Paris fallout mode. This time, she'd accidentally spilled the truth. I didn't respond in the group chat, didn't send a sarcastic "have fun" or a screenshot of my closed card. I simply forwarded the message privately to my dad. No explanation, just the screenshot. 10 minutes later, my sister texted me directly. "Sister, seriously?" I let the message rot unread. 2 hours after that, my mom reached out with her predictable softness. "Mom, I know you're hurt. When you're ready to talk, let me know." Still no apology, still no accountability. Just the first tremor in a pattern I knew too well. Pretend nothing happened long enough, and maybe Michelle will patch the holes again. This time, the holes weren't mine to fix. The next blow arrived in one short text from my dad. "Dad, we need to talk about the mortgage." I knew instantly what he meant. 6 years ago, when I was fresh out of college and working 2 jobs, my dad lost his. It was supposed to be temporary, a 3-month emergency where I covered half of their mortgage so they wouldn't fall behind. 3 months became 6. 6 became a year. A year became 6. And I just kept paying. Nobody thanked me. Nobody offered to take it back when they were stable again. It became one of those silent family agreements. If Michelle can pay, she should pay. Except I wasn't paying anymore. I'd remove the auto payment the same day I canceled the subscriptions. It hadn't crossed my mind until now to wonder how long it would take them to notice. Now I knew. I wrote back, "Me, what about it?" It took nearly an hour for him to respond. "Dad, it bounced." I breathed out slowly. A calm I didn't expect settled over me. "Me, you'll need to take care of it." And that was the end of that conversation. The next evening, I got a fraud alert for a Target order, $287.64. The kind of mixed haul that could only belong to my mother. Diapers she stockpiled just in case, cleaning wipes, snacks. I checked the details. It came from an old shared Target login, one I hadn't used in years, one they probably still had saved somewhere. When I locked down my life, I'd changed every password, every login, every recovery email. So naturally, they'd gone looking for any crack in the door. I sat back and realized something enormous. For years, I'd unknowingly built a financial ecosystem around my family. They lived inside it, and now, without it, they were scrambling. That was their problem, not mine. What happened next, though? That was the moment silence turned into action. I was still at the cabin, a quiet little place with no Wi-Fi, no neighbors, just birds and a stubborn fireplace, when my phone buzzed with a text from an old college friend. Darren, hey, are you really selling your truck?" I blinked. Selling my truck? I wasn't selling anything. I wrote back, "Me, where did you see that?" He sent a screenshot. A Facebook Marketplace listing. My exact make, model, year. Same color. Same dent on the passenger side I kept meaning to fix. But the contact number on the listing wasn't mine. It was my sister's. I stared at the photo, cold disbelief turning into something heavy and sharp in my stomach. Was it possible she'd posted the wrong truck? Used my photo by mistake? I clicked the listing link Darren sent. It opened to a live ad. "Truck for sale. Owner needs quick cash. Serious buyers only." The photo was taken in my driveway. My phone hit the table. She had the spare key. I'd left it at my parents' house years ago, in case of emergencies. She still had the garage code. All she had to do was wait for me to leave town. Then list my truck, show it, sell it, and walk away with the cash. I didn't reply to Darren. I simply grabbed my bag, got in my rental car, and drove back home. 3 hours of silence. 3 hours of disbelief. 3 hours of deciding I wasn't going to cry this time. When I pulled into my driveway, the empty space beside my house confirmed everything. My truck was gone. Inside, I opened the drawer with my vehicle documents. The title was still there, untouched. Then I pulled up my Ring camera history. 2 nights earlier, 11:26 p.m. There she was, hoodie pulled up, sneakers, looking over her shoulder like a teenager stealing from a convenience store. She grabbed the spare key, unlocked the truck, started it up, and drove off. I watched the clip 3 times, not because I needed proof, but because I needed to understand how easily she did it. Like she believed the truck already belonged to her. I called the police. I reported it stolen, provided the footage, explained that she was my sister, explained the spare key, explained the attempted sale. I didn't sugarcoat a thing. For the first time in my life, I wasn't protecting someone who wouldn't protect me. Later that night, my phone rang, my sister's number. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice came through sharp, furious. "You're seriously going to get me arrested over a car? You weren't even using it. I was trying to help Mom and Dad with the mortgage." There it was, the truth under the tantrum. They were drowning. And instead of asking for help like adults, they were stealing from me like opportunists. 2 days later, police called me. Truck recovered. She had driven it to meet with a buyer, but panicked when he asked to see the title. She told them it technically belonged to me. She told them she had permission. She didn't. She knew it, and now so did they. Charges were up to me. I didn't press them, not because she deserved mercy, but because I wanted her to sit with the knowledge that the only reason she wasn't fingerprinted and booked was the same person she tried to steal from. Me. It wasn't forgiveness, it was a line being drawn, and she finally saw it. 2 nights after the police recovered my truck, my voicemail chimed again. I didn't expect much. Probably another half-hearted excuse, maybe a guilt trip disguised as concern. Instead, I heard my dad's voice, but not the version of him that barked orders or lectured or pretended everything was under control. Just 5 seconds of silence, and then we messed up. No follow-up, no justification, no request for me to fix anything. Just the truth in its smallest possible form. I played it twice, not because I needed to hear it again, but because I didn't know how to feel. 5 seconds shouldn't have meant anything. But silence from a man who never admitted fault? It meant everything. Still, I didn't call back. Not yet. The next day, a plain white envelope showed up at my door. My mom's handwriting, a looping cursive I'd seen on birthday cards and grocery lists my whole life, covered the front. Inside was a handwritten letter, 2 pages. No defensiveness, no minimizing, no, but we were stressed, or, but you know we love you. Just raw, uncomfortable honesty. She wrote that they had leaned on me so long they forgot it wasn't my job, that I had become the default solution to their problems, that they'd excuse their entitlement as family closeness, that the Paris post felt different once she saw my spreadsheet, like she was watching herself through someone else's eyes. She ended with, "We forgot you're our daughter, not our provider. I don't know how to fix this, but I am sorry." I set the letter on the counter, read it again that night, and again the next morning. It wasn't enough, but it was a start. Still, I didn't respond. My silence wasn't punishment. It was space, for me and for them. Space to see what they'd do without leaning on me the second things felt hard. The unraveling started quietly. A few days later, at the grocery store, I ran into Mrs. Callahan, a neighbor who'd known me since I was 10. She stopped me near the cereal aisle. "Is your mother doing okay, dear?" I blinked. Yeah? Why?" She gave me a sympathetic look. "I heard about the house." My stomach dipped. "What about it?" She hesitated. "I just hope everything works out. We're all praying for them." When I got home, I pulled up the county property site. There it was. Pre-foreclosure notice. Public record. Filed 2 weeks earlier. My parents hadn't said a word. Not when the Paris trip collapsed. Not when their apps stopped working. Not when the mortgage bounced. They'd been sinking for months, maybe years. They were never going to tell me, because they assumed I'd eventually swoop in and rescue them. But silence had shown them I wouldn't. Then came the dominoes. My sister started selling her designer handbags and shoes on Instagram. Half of them I recognized as gifts I'd bought her over the years. My mom quietly listed jewelry, pieces I'd watched her show off at parties, pieces she swore she'd gift to me someday. My dad picked up extra work, delivery driving at night, handyman jobs on weekends. He'd once said he'd rather die than work a gig job. Apparently he'd rather live. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel satisfied. Mostly I felt relieved. They were learning to stand on legs they'd forgotten they had. And then something unexpected arrived. A text from my sister. Not angry, not sarcastic, not defensive. Just real. "I messed up a lot worse than I realized. I don't expect you to believe me, but I want to fix things. Not asking for money. I just want to be better." I stared at the message for a long time. This was the same sister who stole my truck in the middle of the night, who tried to sell it behind my back, who helped plan an entire vacation funded by my card, who treated me like an ATM disguised as a sibling. But the tone was different now. The arrogance was gone. So I replied, "Don't say it, show it." No lecture, no forgiveness, no false hope. Just a challenge. 2 days later, she sent me a screenshot. A job application. Administrative assistant at a small clinic. Hours later, another screenshot, her Lyft ride to the interview. I didn't reply, but I watched. A week later, a short message. I got it. And below it, another photo, her first name badge clipped to a lanyard. No emojis, no bragging, just proof she was finally standing on her own. Then my dad surprised me. Not by apologizing, he'd already done that. Not by begging, he didn't. Not by blaming, he'd finally stopped. He sent me a screenshot, a mortgage payment, paid from his account. He didn't ask me to match it, didn't hint at needing help. He just paid it. And for the first time in years, he didn't expect a savior to come behind him and clean up the rest. But the biggest surprise came from my mom. A single photo. Her in a retail t-shirt, folding shirts at a department store. No caption, no drama. Just a woman who finally stopped waiting for her daughter to fund her life. I didn't gush. I didn't celebrate. I sent a simple, "Hope the shift went okay." Her reply was a heart. A small one, but real. 2 months after Paris, an envelope arrived. Handwritten. No return address, though I recognized the handwriting immediately. Inside was an invitation. Not digital. Not a group chat message. Actual cardstock. Dinner, just us, no expectations. I almost didn't go. But then I reminded myself, boundaries don't mean walls. They mean doors with locks. And I could unlock this one for a single dinner. The house felt different when I walked in. Quieter. Humbleness hanging in the air like the scent of garlic from the kitchen. The dining table, usually overcrowded with holiday dishes, held only a bowl of pasta, garlic bread, and 3 plates. No boasting, no manipulation, just dinner. My dad asked about my job. My mom told me a story about her new coworkers. My sister talked about her terrible first boss and how she was learning to handle it. Nobody asked me for money, nobody complained, nobody pretended. I didn't know whether to cry or exhale. After dinner, my dad slid a folded piece of paper across the table. His handwriting. We will never use your name or card again. Not because you cut us off, because we finally understand what we were taking. Below it were 3 signatures. Dad, Mom, Sister. He didn't ask me to sign it. It wasn't a contract. It was accountability in its simplest form. I folded the paper, put it in my jacket pocket, and stood to leave. My mom hugged me out the door. Not a desperate hug, not a clingy one. Just a quiet, grateful squeeze. As I drove home, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity. I felt clarity. They weren't perfect. They weren't healed. But they finally understood something I had screamed silently for years. I wasn't their financial plan. I wasn't their safety net. I wasn't their ATM. I was their daughter. Just that. And for the first time, it was enough.